Hey, what's going on, everybody, and welcome back to my channel, Movie Files. Elliot back again with a brand new Netflix early movie review, and today we're discussing the new psychological thriller by the name of The Woman in the Window, which will be coming to Netflix this Friday, May 14th. Now, I got the chance to check it out early, and I'm really excited to let you all know what I thought about this movie, and if you all should check it out in the spoiler-free review. Before we dive into it, make sure you're following me on all my other social media accounts. If you're new to the channel, welcome to the community. Consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell. That way you can get the alert when I drop new content. It would mean a lot to me if you all can like and share this review. It helps out the channel a lot, but also appreciate the support. And in the comments, let me know if you all were excited for this film. And once you've seen it, let's discuss your thoughts on your pros, your cons, your thoughts on the performances, the story. Were you surprised by the reveal? Did you have a good time with this film? Let's discuss it all in the comments below. So going into this film, this film has had some troubled productions. There were some reshoots due to the test screening being kind of poor. There were multiple delays. It was supposed to come out in theaters last year, but obviously we know what happened with movies coming out in theaters last year, and then ultimately just about 4 or 5 months ago Netflix picked it up, and here we are discussing it. Starting off with my positives. Look, man, I'm gonna be honest, I was pretty invested in this story. This is a psychological thriller, and I love a good thriller and a good psychological one at that. So briefly, just to give you all a synopsis of this film: a agoraphobic woman living alone in New York City begins spying on her new neighbors, only to witness a disturbing act of violence. And it's in that synopsis, it's in those characters, it's in their backstories that you learn in the film that really got me invested in this film. And it's just like, for example, meeting our main character Anna, played by the incredible Amy Adams, who we'll talk about here in a second. It's meeting Anna, it's seeing her deal with this anxiety to not want to go outside, it's seeing her deal with the pressures of just recently separating from her husband, played by Anthony Mackie, and her young daughter, seeing her deal with all that. In the meantime, taking these new pills is really kind of messing with her head, and this is like, do you believe her? Do you not believe her? That got me so invested. It's meeting the characters like the Russells, who just moved across the street. You know, we have Gary Oldman as the head of the family. We have his young son, as well as his wife, played by Julianne Moore, and it's just like the mystery of this family. Can you believe them? Is there some skeletons in their closet? You meet a character like David, who's the tenant, who lives in a basement of Amy Adams, who has some things that he's kind of keeping a secret. So it's all that stuff that made it such a thrill ride to watch this film, and just kind of going back and kind of pointing out the performance, starting off with, again, I can't stress it enough, I'm such a big fan of Amy Adams. I think she's one of the best actresses working alive, and I love seeing her in dramas. I love seeing her in anything, but give me an Amy Adams drama, sign me up. And seeing her character Anna deal with this various levels of depression, dealing with this anxiety, not wanting to go outside, and you learn why she doesn't want to go outside and where that anxiety comes from. And when we see kind of that moment, it's a really good dramatic moment, it's an earned moment, it's an emotional moment, but just kind of looking at her character, you felt, or at least for me, this sense of helplessness. You felt this sense of loneliness. And when it comes to the telling, kind of unraveling, and her being so convincing and conveying this character in regards to, you want to trust her, you want to believe everything she has to say, but you know that these new meds that she's been put on is really screwing up her head. So it's just that emotional roller coaster that you're going through with this character that made it such a thrill ride. And again, Amy Adams just slays this role. She truly conveys this woman that's tackling with emotional issues, as well as the stuff that she's going through mentally, and she does such a great job in this role. And I also want to point out, you know, this cast is stellar, man. Like Gary Oldman, you have a Jennifer Leigh, you have a Julianne Moore, you have Tyree Henry, we have Wyatt Russell, Anthony Mackie. I mean, this cast goes on for days, and it's in those little smaller performances. We don't get, and I'll talk about that a little bit later, as much from the supporting cast, but when they're on screen, they make their presence felt. In particularly, going back to the legend himself, Gary Oldman as Mr. Russell, he plays the role perfectly, because he's that one guy that, from the appearance, he seems to have all his things in order. His family seems to be loving and whatnot, but you know that he has this type of behind closed doors. There's more than appears and more than meets the eye, and he really kind of conveys that character pretty perfectly, as well as other supporting characters like Wyatt Russell, who has a small role, but he is just, I'm always impressed by Wyatt Russell. I can't believe this film has not one but two Captain Americas in this film, but I thought that he had an interesting element of surprise with his character David. Again, David is the person that lives in the basement of Anna, and he has a bit of a temper on him, and I'll just kind of leave it at that, but also some skeletons in his closet. And then you transition to a character that you kind of really root for, and you feel like he wants to help out Anna, and that's Detective Little, played by the incredible Tyree Henry. So again, even though not all those supporting characters have the biggest, most meatiest role in this film, they leave a pretty good impression, and that's just to name some of the characters. Everyone else involved in this film did a pretty good job, which brings me to the director of this film, Joe Wright, who I personally thought had a really strong direction within this film, and I thought it was a concise direction as well. He really did a good job of capturing this sense of confusion, as well as really adding in almost like this this stage-like play approach. It was kind of a grandiose approach to the story, and I really enjoyed the way he directed this film. And I also have to applaud the set design. The creation of the house was really kind of a symbol of what Amy Adams' character Anna was going through. It's this nice, beautiful house, but it's kind of not being kept well up to date. There's mold in the house. The carpet's a little bit dirty. There's dishes all over the place, which really kind of speaks to her mental state. So I really enjoyed how the house kind of represented her mindset. And also, I have to pay, I appreciated, being a psychological thriller fan, all the different homages paid to classic psychological thrillers, in particularly 1954's Alfred Hitchcock's Rear Window. This film not only pays homage to it, but there's literally a scene in the film that shows Amy Adams' character watching. So I really kind of appreciate being a fan of this genre. And lastly, the score. The composer of this film, the legend Danny Elfman, composed this film, and he added another layer and dimensions to this film, and really kind of brought out the mysterious kind of elements within this film. So a lot of good things to say about the film. I do have some criticisms that I'm going to kind of mention here. I'll go into, first and foremost, more times than not, when you have an ensemble cast like this, someone's going to get the short end of the stick. And just me being selfishly a fan of all these actors, there are some actors that I wish had a little bit more to do in the film. I mentioned Gary Oldman, Tyree Henry, Anthony Mackie, Wyatt Russell. Again, they make their presence felt, but I just wish they had a little bit more to add to the film, because again, this is personally being selfish. I'm a fan of those actors, so I just wanted a little bit more from their roles. But the one thing that I did have a problem with this film, the first act, very compelling. Second act ramps things up. The thriller aspect, the mysteries, the twists, the turns, the reveals come and kind of really come through in that second half. There's a moment in the third act, and I won't give too much away, but it's a tonal shift we're going from psychological thriller to kind of a straight up slasher, almost horror film, which I'm a big horror fan, but the handling of that felt a little clunky. It felt forced. Now, I said that this film was plagued by some reshoots. I feel like the third act was kind of plagued by reshoots, because it felt like it was kind of misplaced and kind of came out of left field. And I just say, not only did I not feel like the scene fit, but the actor opposite of Anna's character, played by Amy Adams, the actor in this particular scene, I wasn't a fan of the switch. It was almost too hammy, and it just kind of felt forced, and I just wasn't a fan. And it's like maybe about a 10-minute moment in the third act, which things are kind of ramping up at this point. You get a big moment, you get a really sad, emotional moment, but it's in that 10-minute scene, and when you see the film, you'll know what I'm talking about. It just didn't work for me personally, but that was probably my only gripe that I really had with the film. So before I give you my overall thoughts and my score for this film, make sure to like the video, share the video, leave your thoughts in the comments, and of course, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit the bell. That way you don't miss any of my other content. With all that being said, overall, this is a throwback psychological thriller that kept me invested and engaged throughout my viewing experience. Amy Adams delivers a real and honest and believable performance, as well as a stellar cast. The direction was great. The score and the set design was another added layer of appreciation. The third act takes a bit of a dip in the storytelling, but still managed to end on a high conclusion. With that being said, I'm going to give The Woman in the Window a solid 3.5 out of 5. Now, again, based on delays, reshoots, not having the best, test screening, I was pleasantly surprised by this film, and as a fan of psychological thrillers, I was pretty invested with this movie. So that's my thoughts on this film. Let me know what you all thought of it once you've seen it. What'd you think of the performance, the storytelling, the direction, the set design? What were some of your criticisms? Let's talk about it all in the comments below. Again, make sure to like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the bell. That way you don't miss any of my other content. There's a lot of stuff that's coming out in the coming days, so I hope you all are checking out my other reviews that I've done for movies as well as TV shows. So thank you guys for watching this review. Hope you're staying safe. We'll see you on the next video.